Hi, in this video we're going to look at an extension for Visual Studio Code called AL CodeActions. Hey, I'm Eric, and in this video I'm just going to show you one of the tools that I use when I'm doing AL development. Of course we use Visual Studio Code, but Visual Studio Code is just an editor. And the power of Visual Studio Code is that we can extend it to include a lot of things, including the AL compiler. But there's a lot of people out there who are actually making it even better than just what comes from Microsoft. And in this video, I'm just going to take a quick look at one of the tools that I'm using. So let's get into it. Here is my Visual Studio Code. I opened a new project with ALGo and have the Hello World file here. And the extension that we're going to take a look at is called AL CodeActions. They're made by a great fellow called David Feldhoff, and I think this one deserves more recognitions than it has right now. So try it out yourself. Let me know what you think about it, and let me show you a couple of features that this thing actually has. So the first one is something that I have been missing when doing AL, because I was used to this in Visual Studio Code when doing C# and stuff like that. Is that if I want to write I want to use procedure here. That's what I'm trying to say. So let's generate awesome message. That's what we want to do here. And we may actually want to pass a parameter, so we don't. But this is clearly that this procedure does not exist. So how do we fix that? Well, now we have this little thing, show fixes. So with this extension, we get a way to generate this procedure. There we go. And it's fairly intelligent, because you can see that it's generated a procedure that has text as the return type, because that's the parameter we used on the message function. So if we let's undo this one, and then we could see what happens if we pass today into this one. Generate this one, and we get today, so we get a date parameter. I'll just to avoid confusion with the function called today, and probably would probably be to do this, but let's just call this t. So now we actually have a parameter in here. So let's add some code. It just doesn't have to make sense, but let's create a variable called d, and let's create another one called m, and do d equals something and m is equals something else. And then let's loop for d equal m to m times 5, do begin. And if for m colon equals, this is just a random equal for to d times 5, do begin. And then if d equal m, then exit test. So just complete nonsense code, right? But none of these. Suddenly I had some code in here. So what do we want to do with this code? Let's actually use another function from the AL CodeActions. The other great thing here is that if I mark a piece of code here, said, perhaps this thing should be a procedure by itself. So I mark the code, say extract to procedure. And awesome 2, because that's how we roll. So what happened here? Let's investigate this for a second. My code is removed from my first procedure, and the procedure name that I gave it is there instead. It gets the two variables as parameters. Let's try actually undo for a second here. Let's undo. Let's create a y also, just for the fun of it. Let's see what happens, and I'll do the exact same thing. But now there's another variable in play here. I extract a procedure. Just take the new procedure name this time. Y is not in here. Okay, maybe because it didn't have a value. Let's try to give it something. So that would be 5, and I'll do this again. Still, the exact same result. How awesome is that? So it looks at what variables am I using in the piece of code that I have selected, and those are the variables that are passed as parameters right now by reference, but we'll get to that in a second, and nothing else. I could now say, okay, so let's actually talk about the by reference. So these are both var. So this will make sure that whatever happens in the procedure is actually still. So at this point, D and M will have the same values as before I extracted it. But there might be cases where, if you want, like I typically do, want a more functional programming approach, in that case, you will probably not be modifying them. So it will be, you will pass them as values, and then you use the return values, the return value here as what you're going to use. But this is freaking awesome that you can write your code and say, okay, I need a procedure here. You just write the procedure, you write the parameters you want, and say generate a function. It will generate a function, and then you can, if you have something that says, this should actually be a function by itself, you can mark those lines, extract it. So this is a tool I use all the time, and David, that is awesome work. You get all the 5 stars you need from me. There's some other things in this that it will also handle the references or definitions for handler functions for when you're working with that, because the F5 and Shift F5, F12 and Shift F12 does not work for that right now. Yeah, so just a short video saying that this is an awesome tool, and I suggest you go try it out in your code and see if this fits into your workflow. It fits so well into my workflow. And with that, follow me on Twitter, like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you have comments, put them below or shoot a message to me on Twitter. And if there's other tools that you want me to look at, let me know and I'll do that. Until next time, take care.